Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and I'm here once again for Spellbinders, and just to show you some new decorative Glimmer Hot Foil Plates that have recently been released and available. So in this video, there's going to be a total of 5 cards. Yes, I know, I'm only showing 2. Now I'm sneaky that way. So for the first 2, kind of the same thing, but the plate that I'm using is called Fanciful Corners. Kind of the name kind of says it all. It's great for corners. But we're going to do 2 different cards. So for the first card, I have my panel cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm going to set 2 of the corners. Now, of course, they're corners. You can set all 4. I just wanted to do 2 of them. Now, for my foil, I'm going to be using the copper. And I'm going to do I'm going to call it the trick that Yana had recently showed in one of her videos. Okay, this was ingenious. So whoever came up with this, that's where I saw it. You know, hello, low-tack tape. Just make sure, instead of putting your foils down, shiny side down on your system, you want the shiny side up. Ask me how I know. Yeah, absolutely. So by having that attached, I can specifically place my corners where I want them, and it works absolutely beautifully. You can see that is the direct panel. I'm not going to be doing any die cutting. Now there's one more panel that we're going to create. Same thing. I cut it to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, but I'm only going to use one of them, not 2. But just one. But we're going to do the same thing. I am using some low-tack tape. Now this tape, this is washi tape. I think that came from a tonic kit. And if you need it to be more low-tack, I usually just put it on my skin and rub it just to get rid of the tackiness. I didn't want any fuzzies. I mean, you can put it on your clothes, but... I'm not going to show all of the way that I use the Glimmer system. I mean, I'll have a video down there if you want to learn how the system works and so forth. But you can see I'm just keeping it there in the corner. So these are the 2 cards that I have. Now I'm going to pull in another plate set that I have, and that's called Foil Flowers. So I'm going to do a tone-on-tone foiling. So you can see my colors there at the top of the screen. So I have like a lime green, cardstock, and I'm going to be using citrine for that foil. For my pink cardstock, I'm going to use a bright pink, or no, pink, that's just pink. For my more fuchsia cardstock, I'm going to be using bright pink. All right, and then for my peach color cardstock, I'm going to be using blush. That's one of my favorite foils, by the way. So you can see she had showed this technique, and I will link her video down below. It was very eye-opening for me because the process can be quicker just by, you know, pushing in your plate. As soon as you bring it back, it's really not losing its heat, so you can just keep moving in a repetitious movement, and you are able to just repeat your foiling so that you don't, you know, we get in the habits, and so did I. Okay, I gotta wait for this to heat up, I gotta wait for my light. Now it's best if you do. It's recommended, follow the instructions, but this does work. You can keep moving because that heat is still there, and those plates, and this is when you're using the same plate. Okay, you're not changing your plates. You're just constantly foiling that same. You're changing the colors of your cardstock or the foil. So they retain that heat very well, I might add. So you can see all of these different colors that I'm using and I'm foiling with. It's kind of, it's a neat effect when it comes to the tone on tone. Now, by all means, you could have used gold for all the flowers, you know, however you would want that to look. The citrine is actually also, when it comes to the lime, that's going to be the center of the flowers. So you actually get 4 different sizes of flowers in this set. So it really is a fun set. What's really nice with this set is you do get the dies that match the images. So you can very easily line these up and then die cut them. So I did do all of the die cutting of each of my images. So I've got these 3 different colors. I mean, now you could have had more. I mean, by all means, you could have added so many more. And I'm going to layer some of them. You know, that smallest flower is going to be on top of the larger one. Excuse me. Just to get some dimension. And then I'm going to be playing around with those centers and curling them. Sorry, I was about to cough again. I'm so sorry. You know, sometimes you just can't help it. So I'm going to use the stylus on my tool-in-one and just to curl them up just a little bit. Again, just to give some dimension. If you've seen my previous videos, you know I just love adding dimensions. And I love making flowers out of paper. There's so many different ways. But I do like to curl the paper and see what effect you can get. So we're just going to continue to add the foam squares. And I am also using some glue dots as well when I'm going straight down onto each of the pieces. Now you don't really, in some cases, have to add the center. You can just add that one small flower and that would have been fine as well. So again, very versatile plate set. And I like the size of them. You know, they're not too small. So you can have fun with them. Now all of these flowers that I've made are going to be split between the 2 card panels that I have there. So for the one on the left, we're just going to use 3 flowers and it's just going to sit in between those corners. So I actually used them the way the title says, fanciful corners. And I'm just going to set those 3 because I do like odd numbers. For the one on the right, I actually used one of the corners to make it look like it's a vase, so that it's holding these 3 flowers, or these 3 flowers are coming out of that. So when you're looking at, even though it says fanciful corners, look at the shape of it. Try to forget that name. Try not to look at it. But just to look at that and say, you know what, this could be a vase that's holding those flowers as well. It also looks like a wrought iron gate. So it would be kind of cool to put one at the top and have lines coming down. So you can do that. You can look at your plates and say, okay, what else could this create? What movement can it give? I'm going to continue to use my double-sided foam squares just to set the flowers in place. Now I do stamp my sentiments and I do that off screen. And I do that off screen because I lost that footage. Sorry about that. But I did use the clear sentiment stamp set by Spellbinders just to add my sentiments up to the front. And the color that I chose to stamp my sentiments was Craft by Gina K. So I grabbed some paper from the watercolor paper pad by Spellbinders. It is one of my favorites. I just love the images. And this is just one of my favorites. So I'm going to show you 3 different ways that you can foil on this paper and get 3 different looks. Now the plate that I'm using here is called Hello, and it does come with a die to cut out the image. So again, I'm going to use my washi tape to secure my plate into where I want that to sit on my paper. Now again, we're going to give you 3 different ways to make this hello sentiment look. So you can see I'm gathering up some other things here, but now my plate is ready. I'm going to pull it out, set my shim and my clear, and I do put, because this is paper, it's not a cardstock pad, I do add another piece of cardstock to use as a shim as well. I'm going to keep that plate on there for a little bit. So as I'm thinking of where it's going to go on to the next cardstock, I want to keep that on to my hot plate to stay warm. So yes, I am, you can see I'm not using the tweezers, but don't do what I do, please. Be safe. Use the tweezers. Okay, don't, please, don't follow my lead. Just watch what I'm doing here. I don't want anyone to get hurt. So you can see that I went down onto the bottom right-hand corner, but the way that I put it through my machine, it didn't foil. I lost a section of the foiling, and I knew I would not be able to set that back on plate, on top of it. So you're going to see how I fixed that. We do not stop. We keep going until it works. For our third card, you can see I have my pattern paper with the design at the bottom. So I want the hello to sit right off of that. I'm going to set that in place and do the same thing. Set that down onto my hot plate, grab my cardstock shim along with the other shim and the clear plate, and I will run that through my die, or my Platinum 6 die cutting machine. You can see I grabbed a piece of Desert Storm. So this is how we're going to fix, or let's just say this, hide this one. All right. So I'm going to foil on that piece of cardstock. Now for this, I don't need any washi tape. I don't need to make sure that this stays in place. I just need to set my foil down, make sure shiny side down, doing it this way, grabbing my shim and my plate, and then once I know it's heated up, I'm going to pull away the foil. Now for this one, I did use, I used different colors based on the papers. So I did use rose gold, copper, and polished brass. This one here is polished brass. So you can see the die goes pretty close right up to the image. I have the Desert Storm cut, and I'm going to cut this one out from this cardstock. And I'm going to carefully peel that away. And now it's time to assemble our cards. So all of these cards are going to be standard A2 size. That's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And they're going to be these are actually all side folding now. Yes! I'm going to make sure I use my paper creaser to make sure my cards have a nice crease, and I'm going to set my papers down. So this one, I'm just going to, excuse me, I'm going to use my tape runner and set this right in place. So very simple. Take your sentiment and put that right onto the front. Let your paper do the work for you. And all you have to do is add a sentiment. This would be a great idea to create a small pack of just cards that say hello, so that somebody can use them for that reason. So it would be a nice gift if someone is a card giver, just to say hello. Almost set that upside down. Yes. And that's okay. It just would have opened a different way. Not a problem. I'm going to, for the image that I cut out, the sentiment, I'm going to prop that up using some double-sided foam squares. So you can see I get that shadow effect with the sentiment popping up off of the paper, but I still have the paper going through. For this one, this is the one where I just made a little bit boo-boo. I didn't run it through my die cutting machine correctly, or I made it skip. So I'm just going to use the one with Desert Storm and just have that sit right on top of it. Again, using my double-sided foam squares just to give it a little bit of lift, and I'm going to trim off the sides to make it look like it's continuing through. So 3 very quick cards just using one of the sentiment plates. I hope you enjoyed today's projects with some new decorative Glimmer Hot Foil Plates that are now available on the Spellbinders website. And as always, I will have the products that I used listed down below in the video description. If you have any other questions or comments, leave those down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can also. I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending just a little bit of time with me today watching my video. If you haven't already, I'd love for you to subscribe and make sure you hit that bell because you don't want to miss the next video. I hope everyone is having a great day. Remember, always take care, but remember what's most important. Always be creative.